My roommate linked to the study system. Every time I solve a problem, the knowledge goes straight into her head. Meanwhile, I just keep getting dumber. Joke's on her. I've already been guaranteed admission. Slack off immediately. When I returned to the dorm, Shoaxian was sitting in my rocking chair eating grapes. As soon as she saw me, she couldn't wait to rush over and ask, "So, Luo, did you study hard at the library today? I bought you another stack of new review materials." The other roommates all sighed in admiration. "Shoaxian, you care more about Luo's studies than your own." She smiled and said, "Well, what can I do? We're best friends." After all, I could only feel the irony. It was this so-called best friend who linked a learning system targeting me. Every problem I solved, the knowledge would transfer to her brain, while I only grew dumber, and it was also her who, the day before the college entrance exam, lured me to a bar, drugged my drink, and left me to be humiliated to death by an online acquaintance of hers. She took advantage of me being an orphan, with only my elderly grandfather in the rural countryside to rely on. After my death, my grandfather would have no way to seek justice for me alone. My frail, aging grandfather cheerfully collected trash every day to support my education, telling everyone how sensible and clever his granddaughter was. But he didn't know, I had already been murdered, given a second chance at life. I won't just make the wicked pay for their crimes, I'll also get into Tsinghua or Peking University, fulfilling both my grandfather's and my own dream. Seeing that I remained silent, Shoaxian nudged me with her elbow. "Luo, I'm talking to you. Did you study today?" "I didn't," I said expressionlessly, giving the rocking chair a hard pull. "I played all day." Caught off guard, Shoaxian nearly toppled from her chair. She paused for a moment, thinking I was joking. "Stop messing around. Everyone knows you're the most hardworking of us all." She patted the thick stack of materials. "All right. Hurry up and finish these problems. No sleeping until you're done tonight. Oh, and these cost me over 300 yuan. Don't forget to transfer the money to me later." How could there be someone so shameless in this world? After doing all this, you still have the nerve to ask me for money? I laughed. "Don't even think about it. Keep the test questions you bought for yourself." I picked up that stack of books and threw them onto her desk. With a boom, the loud noise instantly silenced the entire dorm. A moment later, Shoaxian, who had been startled, yelled at me, "Lin Luo, are you pushing your luck? I kindly bought study materials for you, and this is the attitude you give me? Apologize to me." In the past, I would have backed down to ease the tension in the dorm. She raised her chin, waiting to see me grovel and fawn over her like before, but this time I slammed the table even harder, shouting louder than her, "What are you yelling for? Keep it up and I'll slap you, believe it or not." "Shut up." Shoaxian was startled by me. Her expression changed, not understanding why I suddenly lost my temper so fiercely. With a dark expression, I sat down in my seat and pulled out a form from my backpack to fill out. I wrote with seriousness and focus, even though a lifetime had passed. When I wrote these words from my past life again, I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up. This form carried far too many hopes and dreams. After a while, as I stretched lazily, I happened to catch a glimpse in the mirror on the table of Shoaxian straining to crane her neck to look my way. She wanted to know what I was filling in. Suddenly, our eyes met in the mirror. "Shoaxian," she awkwardly cleared her throat, then casually said, "By the way, Luo, what did the homeroom teacher say when she called you out today?" "I saw her hand you a piece of paper, didn't I?" As soon as she said this, the other roommates also turned to me with curiosity. "Yeah, Luo, what did the teacher want with you?" I smiled faintly. "Oh, you mean this?" I waved the watch in my hand. "Sorry everyone, I won't be taking the college entrance exam, because I've been recommended for admission." The entire dormitory erupted. In my past life, someone secretly used my computer to click the button rejecting admission to Tsinghua and Peking University, forcing me to take the college entrance exam. I called the police, but the fingerprints on the computer had been wiped clean, leaving no trace of the perpetrator. I spoke slowly, observing Shoaxian's expression. She was clearly smiling and saying, "Congratulations," just like the other roommates. But I could tell those two words seemed forced through her teeth. She stared at me and asked, "Luo, does that mean starting tomorrow, you won't have to study anymore?" I smiled faintly and replied, "Of course, I won't be joining you in the grind for the college entrance exams. Good luck, everyone. We're stuck like this anyway. Studying or not makes no difference, the other two roommates said with bitter expressions as they returned to their spots. Only Zhou Axan was different. Her chest heaved deeply, and streaks of red crept into the whites of her eyes. Zhou Axan. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go study. The midterm exams are next week. Have you forgotten the bet you made? Zhou Axan has always had a crush on the school heartthrob from the class next door, but the heartthrob's sister, who is also in our grade, looks down on Zhou Axan, so Zhou Axan boldly declared that she would rank in the top 5 of the grade in this exam. If she succeeds, the heartthrob's sister will publicly apologize and help set her up with him. If she fails, she has to run 3 laps around the playground and bark like a dog. Zhou Axan was certain she would win this bet without fail. Her way of striving for it was to push me to study day and night. If I wanted to take a nap, she would deliberately make noise to wake me up. Now her face darkened, and her expression grew even more unpleasant. Luo, even if you're exempted from the exams, you could still experience the college entrance exams, otherwise, it might be a lifelong regret for you. No worries, I won't regret it. Studying is the biggest regret of my life. But, Zhou Axan still wanted to talk, but I grabbed my backpack and left the dorm. Since I don't need to take the college entrance exam anymore, I should find a part-time job to save up for tuition. When the time comes, I'll bring Grandpa to Beijing, and we'll live together. I don't want him to work so hard anymore. On the road, I saw an elderly scavenger, his wrinkled figure trudging under the scorching sun with a small bamboo basket on his back. It reminded me of my grandfather, and with a sudden pang in my heart, I gave him all the money I had saved for dinner. Just then, a tall figure cast a shadow on the ground, completely enveloping me. "Hello, classmate," the boy said leisurely, his voice crisp and clear. "I'm from the class next to yours, Xia Chushuan." The summer light fell on him, and as I raised my hand to shield my brows, the boy's figure gradually came into focus, clear and vivid. I froze for a moment. Xia Chushuan. Wasn't he the school heartthrob Zhou Axan had been chasing? Just as I was about to turn away, I noticed Zhou Axan had somehow followed us out, standing not far behind. Her expression darkened the moment she saw us standing together. Luo, Zhou Axan straightened her back, adjusted to a moderate smile, and walked towards me. She said gently and softly, "Xia is very busy. If you have something to say, you can tell me. Don't bother him, or you'll become annoying." Her hand naturally rested on my shoulder, but I disdainfully avoided it, not giving her any face at all. I glanced at Xia Chushuan with a meaningful look and said, "Oh, then I won't disturb you anymore. I'll be on my way." Zhou Axan couldn't contain her joy and was about to rush towards Xia Chushuan. However, the boy quickly stepped forward to block my path. "Classmate Lin, I have something I'd like to ask for your help with." The smile on Zhou Axan's face froze. At this moment, the person she had been trying so hard to please but who had ignored her was now looking at me with devout sincerity. "You're the top student in our grade and have secured a spot at Tsinghua or Peking University. Could I ask you to be my study partner?" Before I could respond, he eagerly added, "Don't worry. You just need to study with me during evening self-study. Name your terms. I'll pay 50,000 a month. No, 100,000. Okay, 100,000. I was stunned. I knew the Xia siblings were wealthy, chauffeured in luxury cars, head-to-toe in high-end designer brands, but I never imagined they could be this extravagant. In my days, Xia Chushuan mistook my reaction for dissatisfaction. Scratching his head, he said with a crestfallen expression, "Ah, I know it's too little for a genius like you. But I failed my last math test, and my dad froze several of my cards. How about I skip 1 meal a day from now on and add 3 more to your—" "No need." Zhou Axan's eyes nearly popped out of her head. Gulping, she said, "Chushuan, why not ask me instead? Luo hasn't been doing well in recent practice tests. She just got lucky last time and topped the exam. I could tutor you instead." In my previous life, when I saw my consecutive dismal results in the mock exams, I thought it was because I had been too arrogant and neglected my studies, so I pushed myself even harder to study desperately, yet all I got in return was an increasingly exhausted body and worsening grades. I couldn't even answer the most basic questions in class. At this moment, my expression darkened slightly. Perhaps Xia Chushuan really could be swayed by her words. However, shut up, the boy snapped at Zhou Axian. I'm sick of looking at you, will you ever stop? I only want Lin Luoluo. Just like that, I inexplicably became Xia Chushuan's study companion. In the evening, the homeroom teacher suddenly came in and dropped a bombshell. The midterm exams, originally scheduled in 10 days, were suddenly moved up by half the time. Now just 5 days away, the classroom instantly erupted in a chorus of groans. "Aw, no, I still have so many problems left to solve. I suddenly forgot everything. What's the first line of the memorial on sending out the troops? Can anyone tell me? I'm gonna die. Abandon. This school is truly inhuman. There's no way I can finish reviewing all this." A classmate immediately took the problem set to consult Zhou Axian, who maintained a smile though her fingers trembled slightly. To avoid giving Zhou Axian any advantage, I haven't even opened a book during this period, nor solved a single problem. Meanwhile, she's been chatting with guys online every day, completely forgetting all the material, and they even made plans to meet in person. The thought of her online love interest made my heart feel as if it were suddenly gripped by a hand, because Zhou Axian used my photos for that online relationship. In my past life, by the time they met in person, I had already been turned into a fool under the influence of Zhou Axian's learning system, so I let her take me to a bar, and it was there that I ended what should have been a brilliant life. Luoluo. Zhou Axian's voice pulled me back to reality. I raised my eyes and noticed Zhou Axian had somehow moved to sit beside me, looking noticeably more haggard. Her routine hadn't changed from before, yet today I couldn't shake the feeling that her skin had loosened considerably. I did a set of exam papers, but there are so many questions I don't know. Can you explain them to me? She looked genuinely sincere, but the calculating glint in her eyes was impossible to hide. If I explained the questions to her, wouldn't that mean I'd have to study? My desk mate behind me muttered under her breath, "Zhou Axian, why are you looking for Lin Luoluo? She can't even recite formulas correctly these days." I ignored her, glanced briefly at the test paper, and simply said, "Yeah, I don't know either." Zhou Axian pressed on, "Then if you don't know, could you look it up in the textbook and teach me after you learn it?" Too lazy to look it up, Zhou Axian's expression darkened instantly. She started giving me the cold shoulder again. I walked out without even glancing at her. When it was time for the tutoring session I had arranged with Xia Chushuan, after a few moments of silence, Zhou Axian's eerie voice sounded behind me. "Luoluo, you need to put in more effort. You haven't been in good form lately. Time to hit the books." What a joke. After slacking off these past few days, I feel like I've regained quite a bit of energy. Helping a struggling student with a few problems is no big deal for me. I turned back and said with a smile. Of course, as soon as I entered Xia Chushuan's class, it caused quite a stir. As the top student in the elite class, students from other classes had no idea how poorly I had been doing recently and still looked at me with admiration. Everyone watched as I entered, one by one setting down their pens and staring at me intently. With every step I took, they drew deep breaths, nudged their deskmates' arms, their faces alight with excitement. Xia Chushuan, seated by the window, swiftly gathered his books and stood up. Perhaps it was just my imagination, but it seemed as though he deliberately blocked me from the classmates' view. Go on, all of you go study. This is my good friend, you." His classmates drew out their voices in exclamation. Xia Chushuan glanced at me and said, "Let's go." I followed behind him and noticed the tips of his ears turning slightly red. To make studying easier, the boy opened an empty classroom and sat with me. He lowered his head to search for a book in his bag, his dark hair swaying slightly. Outside the window, the camphor tree's branches were lush and full, rustling in the night breeze. A gust of wind blew in, carrying the scent of midsummer. We sat so close that our elbows could accidentally brush against each other. "You do it first, check the answers when you're done, and I'll explain the ones you got wrong." After saying that to him, I fished a book out of my bag and started reading. With 3 evening self-study sessions ahead, I still needed to find a way to pass the time. Xia Chushuan nodded with a sweet expression, but when his gaze fell on the book on my desk, he froze. Domineering CEO's forced love. After saying this, I began earnestly reciting the entire book from memory, Shou Xan. Just watch how hard I'll study to outdo you. Xia Chushuan gave me a shocked look and didn't dare to speak. My textbook-like approach to reading novels left Xia Chushuan utterly astonished. He kept glancing at me occasionally, his large test paper barely showing any calculation marks, as if he was randomly filling in the answers, clearly distracted. However, while secretly checking his answers against the key, I discovered something astonishing. He had actually gotten every single one right, after class. Zhou Axian rushed to the door of my classroom, her face flushed red, trembling. She pointed at me but couldn't get a word out. I closed the book. Oh, I was just reciting some indescribable things. Isn't this exactly how you counter the top student system? Zhou Axian gritted her teeth and ran to my seat. Lin Luoluo, what about me? She wanted to scold me but was afraid the truth would come out. Her face turning bright red, Xia Chushuan sat beside me, watching her with the same look of seeing an idiot as I did. As we were at a stalemate, the classroom door was knocked 3 times. A stunning, coldly beautiful girl with long hair stood at the doorway, her black hair and red lips striking, arms crossed, her eyes breathtakingly beautiful. She stepped forward, like a painting from the Middle Ages, every movement flawless. Sis, Xia Chushuan was taken aback for a moment, then said happily, "Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be in the elite student training camp?" It suddenly dawned on me that this was Xia Chushuan's older sister, Xia Weiran. Our eyes met, and she pursed her lips slightly, giving me a nod. Help, my heart started pounding violently. Sis, you smell so nice. Sis, you're so beautiful. Hey, sis, why did you come out from the training camp? Hurry back and study, the whole family is counting on you. You'll be in charge of the family business in the future. One black sheep in the family is enough. Xia Chushuan kept chattering away until his sister silenced him with a single glare. Xia Weiran turned coldly towards Zhou Axian, her gaze sharp as a blade. Midterms haven't even arrived yet, and here you are, reckless as ever, harassing my little brother again. Isn't that right? Zhou Axian might act like a tyrant in the dorm, but the moment she faced Xia Weiran, she turned into a coward. I roughly knew the reason. Xia Weiran was famously the school belle with a horde of admirers, including the most domineering school bully around. He had publicly declared that anyone who dared to lay a finger on Xia Weiran would have their legs broken. Zhou Axian's lips trembled, while Xia Weiran sneered coldly. As a girl, you have no self-respect. If you don't care about your own dignity, don't blame others for speaking harshly. No, sister, Zhou Axian suddenly pointed at me. It was Lin Luoluo who disturbed Xia Chushuan studying. I just came over to help. Xia Chushuan immediately flared up. Are you out of your mind? Zhou Axian persisted relentlessly. It's true. If you don't believe me, sister, just ask Lin Luoluo what she was tutoring him in this class. Sister, let me tell you secretly, Lin Luoluo's grades aren't good at all now. She keeps making mistakes in class. Everyone in our class knows. And then, the noble and aloof elder sister didn't even glance at her. Slowly turning her gaze toward me, unexpectedly softening with a gentle smile. As long as Luoluo sits beside Chu Sun, whether she guides him or not, I fully support it. I never expected Xia Weiran to trust me so much. I also didn't know whether to tell her that her seemingly lazy and unstudious younger brother was actually a genius with an exceptionally high IQ. I spent the next few evening self-study sessions memorizing the novel. And I found that novels were much easier to remember than textbooks. I could basically remember everything after just one read, but by the next day, there would be no trace of it left in my mind. Clearly, all that knowledge had gone into Zhou Axian's head. Correspondingly, I became more and more refreshed and energetic each day. While she grew increasingly irritable and weak, she tried to memorize and solve problems on her own. But before long, she threw the book aside in frustration, grabbing her head and screaming. Everyone in the dorm thought she was just under too much academic pressure, but only I knew. This was a sign that the top student system was beginning to fail. What had once happened to me had finally come back to haunt her as retribution. However, during a break between classes that day, while I was filling my water bottle, a classmate rushed over to me in a panic. It's bad, Luoluo. Zhou Axian has teamed up with her uncle from the Education Bureau to pressure the school, saying your past exam results were just luck. they're demanding that the midterm exam be used as the standard to reconsider the recommendation for admission. Sure enough, during the first class in the afternoon, our homeroom teacher and the vice principal in charge of academic affairs arrived in our classroom with serious expressions. The homeroom teacher looked extremely grim. "I'm sorry, everyone, but we have to reassign the guaranteed admission spots based on the results of this midterm exam." The exam was just 4 days away, and my recent performance had been obvious to all. Whispers gradually began to spread through the classroom. "No way. Coming out of nowhere like this. Lin Luoluo hasn't been studying much recently. She's definitely screwed now. I'd go crazy if it were me. This is kinda bullying, isn't it? Aw, doesn't concern us. It's just a battle between the top students." Meanwhile, Sho Aksayan sat bolt upright, glaring at me with vicious eyes. I smiled faintly and stood up, saying, "Teacher, I agree with this decision. Sho Aksayan, having lived a second life, do you really think a mere system can completely destroy me? The reason a top student is that their talent and abilities surpass everyone else's. Since I once stood at the pinnacle, I can be crowned again." I still vividly remember that midterm exam in my past life. It was the Waterloo of my academic career. I can recall almost every single question. Sho Aksayan had thought I would work harder to secure a recommendation, but instead, I slacked off even more. Her mind was filled with CEO romance novels every day, and her resentful gaze was almost enough to kill me. But just the night before the exam, she suddenly and inexplicably became extremely cheerful. I was a bit puzzled. As I climbed into bed, a roommate suddenly sent me a WeChat message. "Luoluo, when you weren't in the dorm earlier, Sho Aksayan climbed onto your bed and put something under your mattress. I don't know what it is. She's on the balcony talking to her boyfriend now. You'd better check it out just in case." I glanced at this roommate's bed. She was lying with her back to me, completely still, as if fast asleep, yet there was still the glow of a phone illuminating her face. "Whatever you do, don't tell anyone, and absolutely don't confront Sho Aksayan directly." At that moment, Sho Aksayan was humming a tune on the balcony, holding the microphone with a radiant smile. I quickly became alert and threw off the covers. The next second, I took a deep breath of cold air. Inside was a wooden doll that looked exactly like me, tied with a red cloth that read, "Midterm exam. Steal all of this person's knowledge and drive her insane on the spot." A few minutes later, Sho Aksayan finished her phone call and entered the dormitory with satisfaction. She deliberately glanced at me, while I was feigning sleep with my eyes half open. I heard her let out a cold laugh. I remember, in my previous life, it was on one of my birthdays when Sho Aksayan gave me a wooden doll that looked exactly like me, and it was from then on that I began to find studying increasingly difficult, with misfortune following one after another. So it was this doll that destroyed my life. Sho Aksayan slowly climbed into bed. Little did she know, just 1 minute earlier. WeChat interface, me, Chu Xuan, do you know any skilled woodcarving masters? Him, yeah, I know him. What's up? Me, I want to ask him to help me reshape this woodcarving I have. The first exam was Chinese. I did quite well. It's always been my strong subject. The traditional poetry engraved in my bones is what I cherish the most. But Sho Aksayan, whose mind is filled with CEO novels, couldn't handle it. When the exam bell rang, she still clutched her paper, refusing to hand it in to the teacher, insisting on just 1 more minute to figure out the answer to that blank. Of course, the teacher wouldn't agree, not only taking away her paper but also calling her out for criticism. Sho Sini burst into tears and collapsed onto her desk as soon as she handed in her exam paper, with several classmates going over to comfort her. Knowing the history between the two of us, everyone chimed in with words of consolation. "Oh, don't be upset, given Lin Luoluo's current level. She definitely couldn't have done it either. The recommendation spot is most likely yours." Lin Luoluo was even cramming before the exam today. But guess what she was memorizing? CEO romance novels. Ha ha ha, can you believe it? Isn't that hilarious? The surrounding classmates burst into laughter. However, Sho Aksayan's expression was even more unpleasant than crying. To make matters worse, someone poked her arm and asked, Aksayan, why aren't you laughing? It's so funny." She was in even more agony, because all those cringeworthy and brainwashing paragraphs I had memorized were now flooding her mind. I slept through half of the math exam in the afternoon. My nap nearly drove Zhou Xian wild with joy. She was ecstatic, convinced the system had finally worked. She even raised her hand to ask the teacher for extra scratch paper, ready to put all that knowledge in my head to good use. However, her mind was probably still echoing, "Woman, don't challenge me so easily." As for why I fell asleep after only half the class, it's because these questions were too simple for me. In my past life, these questions would have been no problem either, but when I finished reviewing them and was about to start writing, I suddenly found myself at a loss for what to write. The more I thought about it, the more my head ached, until even the words in the question stem began to make me dizzy. I chose to leave this question blank and move on to the next one. By the time the round was over and the exam bell rang, I was horrified to realize that I seemed to have lost the ability to write. Now, the situation from my past life has fallen upon her. The invigilator lingered by her side for an unusually long time. After all, everyone in the class was a top student from the elite program, and the teachers basically knew them all. The proctor rushed straight to our math teacher's office as soon as they left the exam hall. But the real climax came the next day during the science comprehensive exam. By this time, the wooden carving modified to resemble Zhou Xian was completely finished. In the middle of her exam, she suddenly went berserk, stood up, and tore the test paper of the student sitting behind her. The examinee sitting behind had already given up on treatment and was sleeping, but got startled by her actions and flew into a rage, slapping her on the spot. "Fuck your ancestors. You tore up my answer sheet when I hadn't even written a single word." Meanwhile, Zhou Xian was hysterically crying and laughing. If the teachers hadn't forcibly restrained her, she would have stripped off all her clothes right then and there. Just thinking about how, if my roommate hadn't reminded me the night before, it could have been me doing these things today, sends chills down my spine. Just as I was watching coldly, a mechanical electronic voice sounded in my head. "Oh no. The wrong host has been bound." The voice disappeared as quickly as it had come, and the next second, Zhou Xian returned to normal. She froze for a moment, then clutched her clothes tightly in terror. The examination hall was completely silent, everyone staring at her with bewildered eyes. Zhou Xian was no exception. Before she could even process the situation, she had already been escorted out of the exam hall by the arriving inspection team. That night, as soon as Zhou Xian returned to her dormitory, she started throwing things around in a fit of rage. After all, the cancellation of her exam results was a done deal, and she had also lost the bet with Xia Weiran. Waiting for her was running around the playground while barking like a dog. Now her skin has worsened, with a sagging, aged appearance. Though only a day had passed, the youthful collagen in her face seemed to have completely vanished. Zhou Xian threw things around until she ran out of energy and collapsed. At that moment, her phone rang. Zhou Xian answered the call with her eyes closed, grunting a displeased "hello." A man's voice came through the receiver. "Baby, I can't take it anymore. I've already bought the train ticket and I'm coming to see you next week." The moment that low, gentle voice sounded, I instinctively began to tremble. The blaring music of the bar, the raucous laughter of men, the pungent smell of alcohol and cigarettes, the desperate cries, all those darkest memories surged into my mind in an instant, suffocating me. The nightmare of my past life had arrived early. Zhou Xian abruptly opened her eyes and sat up in bed. She covered the phone and hurried toward the balcony. At the moment the door closed, our eyes met. She didn't avoid my gaze but instead gave me a smile. Before that man arrived, our midterm exam results came out. Since this exam result is related to the recommendation for admission, all parties are taking it very seriously. Even Zhou Xian running laps on the playground and barking like a dog didn't cause as much of a stir as the exam results. The regular classes are betting on whether it will be me or someone else, while our elite class is just waiting to see me make a fool of myself. After all, I've misspelled even the English words I'm best at several times in class before. The physics teacher wanted me to solve a problem on the board as an example, but even the most basic practice questions stumped me. During the break before the class meeting when the grades were announced, everyone was actively discussing. I heard she was also tutoring Xia Chushuan from the next class. Although Xia Chushuan is good-looking, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, always ranking last in exams. This time, the two of them really outdid themselves. Ha ha ha, just thinking about it is awkward. One dares to teach, the other dares to learn. When their grades come out, Xia Weiran is going to lose it. They say Lin Luoluo has a terrible track record, charging exorbitant tutoring fees. And now this time, TSK, let's all go down together. It's truly lamentable. Just a few months ago, Lin Luoluo was the admired academic genius, and in one night, never mind, the homeroom teacher is coming. Everyone frowned and held their books, pretending to study hard. Between their intense studying, they couldn't resist sneaking glances to gauge the homeroom teacher's expression. It doesn't look good. This is usually the expression she gets right before she loses her temper. Everyone became even more convinced that I was done for, turning back to look at me with sympathetic gazes. Zhou Xian's resentful eyes even gleamed faintly. Since she was going down, she wasn't about to let me off easy either. This exam, our class's overall performance was not ideal. There's one student in particular whose results I truly didn't anticipate, and it pains me deeply. The homeroom teacher cleared his throat before speaking. Everyone panicked upon hearing the first part of his statement, but then relaxed with the tall ones will bear the brunt if the sky falls expression after the second half. The class tacitly assumed that the one who had disappointed the teacher was me. However, she sighed and said, "Zhou Xian, there's no use in saying more. I hope you can adjust your mental state. If it's really too much, take some time off." Then, she dropped 3 bombshells in a row that shocked the entire class. Surprisingly, there was a dark horse from the class next door this time, ranking second in the grade, just 1 point behind the top scorer. They made a typo, writing Luo, from Luo River, instead of fall, in the phrase. Boundless falling leaves rustle down. This person is someone everyone knows, Xia Chushuan from the class next door. Xia Chushuan was actually second to last in the previous joint exam. Fortunately, the top spot in the grade still belongs to our class, Lin Luoluo, with 731 points. At this moment, the entire class was stunned. Ignoring the teacher's attempts to restore order, they immediately began discussing. 15 minutes later, they reached a rigorous conclusion. Academic prodigy Lin Luoluo had been playing dumb to humble Zhou Xian earlier. She single-handedly transformed the second to last in the grade into the second to top. That's the magic of a true academic genius. We need to hug the academic god and absorb their divine energy. I was left utterly speechless as one excited classmate after another rushed to hug me, with even the homeroom teacher unable to stop them. I'm numb. Is there a possibility that Xia Weiran secured a spot in the Tsinghua Peking University summer camp, that her parents officially named her as the heir, and that Xia Chushuan could finally confidently choose the right answer? There's still a message he sent me before the exam saved in my WeChat. Teacher Luoluo, don't worry, your student who never studies seriously won't let you down this time. To celebrate keeping my recommendation spot, as everyone requested, I treated my classmates to a fun outing. We booked a large private room, and everyone sang and partied wildly, venting all their frustration from the failed exam. Honestly, my classmates are really simple and straightforward, clear in their likes and dislikes, with emotions that come and go quickly. Finally, I found time to step out and call my grandfather to share the good news with him. Standing alone in the hallway, my emotions remained unsettled for a long time. Just as I hung up the phone and was about to return to the private room, a dark figure standing at the corner also moved slightly. Only then did I realize that the person standing there had been watching me for quite some time. I just didn't notice it earlier. My heart started pounding wildly. Instinctively, I quickened my pace, wanting to get out of this winding corridor as soon as possible. Earlier, I was so focused on finding a deserted spot that I unconsciously wandered here. And now I don't know how to get out. I walked swiftly, and behind me came a series of footsteps charging straight toward me. That person gradually quickened their pace as well. I could almost hear the man's heavy, labored breathing. I started to run, began to sob, too terrified to scream, and this only further excited the man behind me. Just around the corner, he suddenly lunged forward. He miscalculated, having died so miserably and despairingly in my past life. How could I not recognize the scent of tobacco, alcohol, and some peculiar drug mixed on him? During those few minutes I spent in a daze after hanging up with Grandpa, I had already coordinated everything with Xia Chushuan on WeChat. At this moment, Xia Chushuan had swiftly pulled me into the private room and locked the door behind us, while the person slumped drunkenly and unconscious in the corner was Zhou Axian. Zhou Axian, who had drunk too much, came out cursing and looking for me. Upon spotting Xia Chushuan, he followed her all the way here before collapsing at the door, completely exhausted. Soon, the sound of a man's curses erupted outside the door. "You damn bitch, you tricked me. Not only were the photos fake, but you also went back on your promise. Where is she? Why is it you? Don't play dead. Why did you set me up? Fine. Since you're so eager to throw yourself at me, you can take her place." In the private room, I was sitting very close to the guy. His eyes glimmered with scattered starlight in the darkness. I remained silent for a long moment before asking, "Xia Chushuan, why have you never asked me why I targeted Zhou Axian?" "I don't want to ask. If you're willing to tell me, you'll do so naturally," the boy replied with a faint smile. "But I believe the girl who, despite not being well off herself, would give her living expenses to an elderly scavenger can't possibly be a bad person." Truth be told, I could see it. Initially, he had approached me to tutor him out of sympathy for me, the school's famously impoverished top student, but it seems that after we made contact, there was a different kind of emotion in his eyes. I never expected him to trust me so much. "Zhou Axian will be fine." I smiled and lowered my eyes, because I've already called the police. And the KTV security has already arrived on this floor, even if I hate her. I don't want another girl to suffer such extreme pain again. Xia Chushuan burst into laughter. "I knew I wasn't wrong about you." I pulled open the door, and a flood of light rushed into the dark private room. I took a deep breath. "Xia Chushuan, thank you, let's go back." Yet there was no response from the other side. I took a few steps but couldn't resist looking back, only to realize that I had somehow entered the private room where Zhou Axian was. I witnessed the most terrifying scene of my life. The girl was already dead, collapsing from the bed in agony, her hands propped on the floor, with a pool of glaring blood beneath her. There was a horrifying ring of blue and purple bruises around her neck. I covered my mouth in shock. "Zhou Axian is dead. That's impossible. I've already timed the call to the police perfectly, and the security guard told me he's already located Zhou Axian's position through surveillance." "How interesting. At this critical moment, you actually chose to call the police." A familiar mechanical electronic tone emerged from Zhou Axian's corpse. At the same time, an eerily bizarre wooden doll burst forth from Zhou Axian's chest. "Let me introduce myself. My name is the female supporting character darkening system. As the name suggests, I need to select someone to become the female supporting character and have her complete the ultimate darkening. Unfortunately, all the hosts I've bound with so far have been useless." The wooden doll carved with an eerie smile actually showed a regretful expression. Those people's desires and obsessions only serve to trap themselves. Suddenly, I thought, why can't I personally cultivate one? It let out a baby-like laugh of joy, but the words it spoke were utterly piercing. "Luo Luo, as a gift for our first meeting, I helped you kill Zhou Axian. You have no idea how painfully she died. 100 times more painful than your previous life, classmate Lin Luo Luo. Your rebirth was no accident. It was orchestrated by me. What I don't understand is, after 2 lifetimes, why haven't you chosen to turn dark? Despite all you've endured, why won't you join me in making those who hurt you pay the price?" My chest heaved deeply, the shock of death rendering me speechless. It took immense effort to steady myself before I could finally glare at it coldly. The wooden carving grinned and said, "This world is so unfair. Why do some people live in luxury from birth, drowning in wealth and privilege, while you grew up in a drafty, leaky hut with your grandfather, even scavenging discarded pencil stubs just to write? Remember those nights as a child when you ran a fever, and he had to carry you through the mountain paths to knock on the village doctor's door? Oh, you and your grandfather shared such a deep bond, but everyone faces life and death. Why not become my host? Together, we could extend his life by taking others. Wouldn't that be worth it? He spent his entire old age without a single day of peace. Don't you want to think of him, Luo Luo?" It said to me in a voice as bewitching as a human's. "I like you very much. Become my next host, and I will give you the most precious things in this world: beauty, wealth, longevity. How about it?" Its eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, as if trying to pull me in. I stared at it unblinkingly. As if I could already see what my future would be like with these things. What it offered was indeed tempting. This system truly can give people everything they've ever dreamed of. I slowly opened my mouth. No, perhaps in its eyes, I've been constantly hurt, but in my view, I've obtained the most precious thing in the world. I've never lacked anything. Maybe my material life wasn't affluent, but I received the most complete love from my grandfather. That's enough. From childhood to adulthood, I've never felt like I lacked anything. I only felt that I didn't give enough to others. Since I was little, my grandfather taught me to live with a clear conscience. If I stole someone else's life to give to him, he'd probably die of anger. I just want to do everything in my power to give my grandfather the happiest possible twilight years. You'll never succeed with this female antagonist corruption system. I smiled as I looked at the wooden carving. What makes humans human is precisely the love that machines can never perceive. One day, someone will completely destroy you. The wooden doll resumed its carved, compassionate smile. The blue halos around its body rose and eventually vanished completely into the sky. This weekend, Grandpa came to the city to see me. He stood at the school gate, gazing at the plaque for a long time, the wrinkles on his brow gradually smoothing out, like a schoolchild wearing a red scarf for the first time, reverent and solemn. Suddenly, I remembered that my grandfather never set foot in a school his entire life, yet he did everything he could to support my education. When he saw me, his first reaction was, "Little Luoluo has gotten thinner again." Then he proudly said, "Grandpa has money. Come on, let's take my little Luoluo out for a big meal." I found a highly rated restaurant near the school. When we arrived, Grandpa stood at the door, too nervous to step inside. Only then did I notice he was wearing the gray shirt he usually reserved for New Year's. Will my shoes dirty their floor? He hung his head like a child who'd done something wrong. Grandpa's shoes were very old, tattered and worn, but in my heart, they weren't dirty at all. "Grandpa, you don't understand. This retro style is all the rage now. You're the most handsome little old man in the world." My eyes welled up with tears as I hugged Grandpa's arm tightly and walked in. The dishes were quickly ordered, but Grandpa ate very little, only holding onto a piece of cornbread, taking small bites and chewing very slowly. He said he wasn't used to the food here, but I knew he just wanted to save the best for me. "Grandpa, I have plenty of money now." I patted my non-existent wallet. "I've been tutoring recently and made hundreds of thousands. And didn't I get guaranteed admission to Tsinghua or Peking University? After graduation, let's go to Beijing together." Beijing is great. Beijing has Tiananmen. When talking about Beijing, Grandpa's eyes lit up. He squinted, his gaze seemingly traversing thousands of miles. "Isn't there an old song that goes, 'I love Beijing's Tiananmen, the sun rises over Tiananmen'?" At this moment, I suddenly felt like crying. I couldn't imagine how Grandpa must have felt when he traveled alone to the city after I was killed in my previous life. Having never ventured far from home in his entire life, how did he manage to ask his way all along, asking where his granddaughter was? When will their little Luo come home? Actually, I've known since I was a child. Grandfather remained single all his life, and I was the child he picked up while scavenging. The customers in the restaurant were all college students. Hearing the commotion, they turned their heads to look and burst into loud applause and cheers, perhaps due to the system's influence. Zhou Axian's passing was quickly forgotten by the classmates. In the following days, I continued to accompany Xia Chushuan in her studies as usual. It's more like getting paid to slack off than studying. That guy's skills are no worse than mine, and his reaction time is even faster. He basically knows the answer just by glancing at the question. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. On the day before the college entrance exam, the countdown written in chalk on the blackboard was finally solemnly updated to 0. The homeroom teacher still stood sternly on the podium lecturing us, but her eyes had quietly turned red. Classmates who have studied together for 3 years finally couldn't hold back their tears in this last class. Our student days have finally come to an end. This summer is about chilled watermelon, soda, ice cream, as well as movies, variety shows, and TV series we've never watched before. Everyone is making up for all the things they missed over the past 3 years in a kind of compensatory binge. I rented a small but cozy and comfortable apartment in the city and moved my grandfather in with me. After a lifetime of hard work, he could finally rest properly. On the day the results came out, I received a letter from Xia Chushuan. Actually, We've met before, during a work-study program, while others showed some reluctance toward cleaning tasks. You alone effortlessly and naturally took on all the work. At the time, I found it fascinating. How could such a slender, fair-skinned girl be so adept at these chores? Later, I couldn't help but learn more about you and discovered your family circumstances were unique. You are the most outstanding and self-reliant girl I've ever met. You never complain, never give up. Every time I passed by your classroom, no matter how noisy others were, you were always quietly sitting by the window, solving problems. I admire the hard-working you, the you who lives earnestly, the kind and helpful you, the tenacious and resilient you, the optimistic and cheerful you. I like this version of you. Lin Luoluo, I hereby sincerely invite you. Let's go to Beijing together. 2 identical admission letters are the grandest confession of youth. Extra, college life. Xia Weiran also got into Tsinghua and Peking University, and the 3 of us often went out for meals together. The Xia family was wealthy with properties everywhere. Sister Weiran and Chushuan helped me move my grandfather to a neighborhood near the school, where many retired elderly people lived. They are all highly educated and cultured individuals who quickly accepted Grandpa and even taught him how to play chess. The community is well equipped with facilities such as a senior library, a senior dining hall, and a senior club. Since Grandpa couldn't read, volunteers patiently taught him and read to him. The elderly man, despite his age, learned with great earnestness. His mental state improved significantly, and so did his physical health. The other seniors in the community were impressed and eagerly asked him for advice on how to maintain such good health. Grandpa still felt quite embarrassed. Even with improved living conditions, he couldn't stay idle and took the initiative to volunteer for the neighborhood sanitation work, joining many other volunteers. The elderly in the neighborhood would give me a thumbs up whenever they saw me, saying, "Your grandpa is amazing." That day, the school bully from high school wanted to come to school to find Xia Weiran. Sister Weiran coldly replied with a simple, "Okay," yet when she hung up the phone, the girl's earlobes had turned red. Truth be told, I could guess. Someone as decisive and straightforward as Sister Weiran would never have allowed him to follow her around if she didn't like him. It's just that high school isn't the best season for love to bear fruit. Xia Chushuan and I went to the library as usual to look up materials and complete the assignments our teacher had given us. It must be said that Tsinghua and Peking universities are truly places where top talents gather. Everyone is exceptionally gifted and works incredibly hard. Here, if you're not careful, you'll quickly fall behind. Finally free from the persecution of that so-called genius system, which was actually a harmful, corrupted system in disguise, I can now wholeheartedly devote myself to studying without worry. I have to admit, taking deep breaths of the scholarly air is exhilarating, and engaging in dialogue with the great minds throughout human civilization is simply thrilling. This is far more appealing to me than playing on my phone. The libraries at Tsinghua and Peking University are also magnificent, with every kind of book imaginable, truly a vast treasure trove. More importantly, here I escaped from those shadowy, unseen eyes lurking in the murky depths. Everyone is strong and confident, diligently focusing on their own tasks, each contributing in their own way to the nation's development. I found like-minded people and became even more steadfast in my ideal, to become a diplomat. After a busy day of studying, we went to Nanluo Guxiang to check out all the delicious food. That day, fireworks rose in the distance, as we watched them together. I suddenly wanted to ask Xia Chushuan, "What is your dream?" He smiled, patted my head, and pulled me into his arms. "No big dreams, just to stay by your side and take care of you. Just want to always be your most loyal puppy."